Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the live question and answer session on considering an academic career in China, hosted by jobs.ac.uk. So if you're in the UK, good afternoon. If you're in China, good evening. If you're in the States, well, good morning. So we very much welcome audience member questions. I'm very much coming from this as an audience member myself. I'm curious about what the expert panel has to say. So the hashtag for you guys is #JobsQ, that is JOBSQ. And our organizer will feed the questions through me, and I can feed them on to the panel members. My name is Ewan. My academic background is studying undergraduate in the UK, then over to Northwestern for my PhD in the States, and now I'm an associate lecturer at Aberystwyth University, again in Wales. I'm delighted to be joined by three panelist members, authentic Chinese folk, all here in the UK right now, but with different backgrounds. I'll let them introduce themselves. So for our first panelist member, we have Huayi Huang.
Hello, everyone. My name is Huayi Huang. I come from China, and I got my PhD degree in Sun Yat-sen University in Guangzhou. I have been studying abroad for 2 years. I have been a joint PhD student in University of Zurich in Switzerland, and now I got a funding now as a Newton Research Fellow in University of Warwick, and after I finish my 2 years contract here, I'm going back to find a position in some university in Shenzhen, a city next to Hong Kong.
Thank you. And so maybe I can ask Li Yang to tell me a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Li Yang. I received my bachelor and master degrees in electrical engineering from the University of Electronic Science and Technology of China. And studying from 2004, I began my further study and work in North America. I received my PhD degree from the University of Missouri, Columbia in 2010. After 1 year work in a big hearing and company, I'm heading back to China. Now I'm an associate professor with Jiangnan University in Wuxi, which is close to Shanghai. Thank you.
Great. I should have asked, what are your academic backgrounds, minus mathematics, and what's you're an engineer, is that right?
Yeah, electrical and computer engineering. I also have background in neuroscience and psychology.
Oh, great. And Huayi Huan, sorry, I'll get to...
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to tell that. Yeah, my background is medicinal chemistry.
Okay, great.
I focus on anti-cancer drugs, yeah.
Wow, oh, wow. Really useful things. And Shen Chang, tell the audience about yourself.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Shenqiang Chen. I got all my degrees in China, the Wuhan University, China, and I got my PhD degree in 2011, and since then I joined the University of Henan Province. I'm now an associate professor, and my major is law. I'm now a reading staff of Sheffield University. Oh, that's all. Thank you.
Great. So thanks. So really good to see a wide variety of experiences from our panelist members. So again, I encourage the audience watching to send us your questions. The hashtag again is JobsQ. So let's get started. Maybe the question that people would be really interested: why China? So let's do a quick one first for everyone. Like, if in 2 sentences, why would you want to work in China? And we can go into much more detail again after that. So start with Huayi Huang. So if you had to advertise this, what would you say?
Okay, we are very welcome foreign experts to join to start their career in China, because we got quite a lot of fundings to support their research, and not only the fundings, and as well as high salaries to support their life in China. Yeah.
Okay, money, excellent. Li Yang?
I would say the same thing. It's pretty much easier to get funding, and you have a very good chance, if you are really good, to establish a research group of, maybe several or even tens of people to help you. That's much easier than investing countries.
Okay, great. Leadership. Okay.
Yeah.
And Shinchang?
Chinese economic develop fast and provide more opportunities for youngsters. And besides, I think that teachers or researchers in universities always have high social sense in China in nowadays. Yeah.
Oh, great. So youth development and social status.
Yeah, I got one more comment about just now I didn't mention. And in China, if you got your own lab, you don't need to pay for the postdocs or research assistants. I mean, the university and the government will pay for that. You don't need to use your funding to pay for them. It's quite different from here, because if you want to hire anybody, you need to pay them from your funding. But in China, the government will support them. Yeah, it's quite different.
Right. Okay. So while we're on the topic, I think so. Maybe you can tell us about how groups and research groups are organized and how the funding works and some of those processes. Because I think part of the thing as a Westerner is we don't really know how the system works, right? So we hear sometimes that there is money available, but how is it distributed, and and maybe how just if you tell me, I don't even know what to ask. So Liang, about just how the funding situation works in China and groups and laboratories.
Okay, in my experience, so the funding basically can be divided into two major groups. So one is so-called government funding. Second part is the industrial funding. The government funding can also be divided into state funding, which is come from the national government. In engineering, we have so-called Natural Science Foundation of China, which is for short NSFC, which is pretty close to NSF in the United States, and also very close to EPSRC in UK. So the NSFC invites personal application, which is just based on your own research. It could be 3 years a proposal for young investigators whose age is less than, let me say, 35. So for more senior researchers, you can apply for 4 years grant. The amount of funding, let me say, okay, depends on different majors. In my majors is around like if I convert that value to GPB, takes okay, let me say 30K for young investigators, maybe like 80K for a 4 years proposal. That's for the NSFC part, and that's for personal funding. And you can also have a research group apply for bigger fundings, but that needs at least one PI and several co-PIs. But that amount of money depends on the project. Could be million or billion. That depends on what they are doing. If you are, for example, if you propose to launch a satellite to observe like gray matters or black hole stuff, that could give you much more money and significantly more money than that. So that's the state funding. For provincial funding, at the like China has different provinces, so provincial government also provide fundings, but those fundings are is somehow let me say diversified across the whole country. In some well-developed provinces, like in the coastal provinces, the funding is there are so many fundings that you may be able to apply that, and some fundings require you to have collaborations with some companies, with industry, so you can file a joint proposal. And some fundings, just like NSFC, you have to fund your own topic and working on that for the 3 or 4 years and before. And so that's basically the whole funding system. So how to spend the money is a different question. And we really have a very different accounting system than the different than the Western countries. For example, as Huai told us that the postdocs and the research assistants actually are paid by the government, not by the funding of the faculties. So the faculties can use their money to do only several things. For example, travel grants, conference registration, publication fee. We also pay like power, especially in some laboratories. You need to use, a lot of electricity, water, natural gases, so things. Another significant portion of the money goes to facilities. Like you can use the money to make your room looks better, buy like air conditioner, like necessary devices, equipment. So there basically only 5 directions you can spend your money. But the money are not, in Western countries, most of the money goes to like research assistantship, teaching assistantship. But in China, it's not. You use your money for research purpose only, not for like human resources.
Great. I'm going to pause you there and actually get onto that issue because so the physical resources and financial resources are absolutely a very important part. But I'm sure the people listening here care about their own jobs too. So on the human resource issue, maybe I can ask Xinqiang, what are the career prospects and some maybe application processes for people at different levels, right? So whether you're coming out as a grad student just finishing, or if you're have a few years research as a PDRA, or maybe even if you're a lecturer or professor and so on. So Xinqiang, would you tell us about what kind of things different people should apply for and what kind of opportunities are available for people at different stages?
Okay. As maybe you know that Chinese universities are divided into many classes. There are 50 universities in China. There are also top 100 universities in China. I think that when you want to join the top 100 universities in China, at least you have to get a PhD. I think that's the least certificate that for newman to come to join our university. And then if you want to go up to the higher rank, you have to maybe the universities are often open to all the professors, associate professors, and the PhD students. And when a new PhD students join the university, they usually get the tenure to be a lecturer, and then they have to enter the university to do some research and teaching works. I think that it's up to the private person to decide which university they will join. And I think the more distinguished you are, and the more choices you will have when you have to choose our university. And that's all.
Great. Thank you, Xinqiang. I know we'll get to things like the 1,000 Talent program in a little bit, but we're getting some quite a lot of stuff on Twitter, and I'll ask. So those are some of the good things. So let me ask about some of the concerns some of our audience members have. So there's a couple. One is the Chinese language, famously difficult language to learn, even for Chinese people. So a question is, as an academic, how do you need to learn Chinese to work in a Chinese university? I'll ask that to Huai Huang. And also second, maybe more general, we'll keep it light, but under the current political climate, maybe we'll skip that. So what about the Chinese language, Huai Huang?
Okay. Some friends, some of my friends in China, we also suggest them to apply for a postdoc position in China. I mean, for some PhD students in our group. And every time we talk about that, they say, "Oh, Chinese is too hard for them." But that's not. But sometimes nowadays quite older students in China, they are good at English. I mean, maybe their oral speaking English is not very good, but they can understand what the foreigners said. And so, I mean, working in China is not, language is not the biggest problem. And especially in academic facility, most of the staff there, they got their master, or some of them got PhD degrees. They all can speak English. So it doesn't matter that if you want to start to work in China, then you need to start to learn Chinese. No, it doesn't matter at all. Yeah, and everybody, and actually everybody will love to try to speak English with you rather than Chinese. Yeah.
Great. Go ahead, Sin Chang. What about daily life? Does it depend on what area you're working in? I know Hawaii wants to go back to Guangdong and Shenzhen. This is one of the rich modern cities. But does it vary depending on where you are?
Yes, I agree with that. Usually in metropolitan and large cities, and many famous universities located there, and teachers or researchers in that famous universities I think have much more workload than common universities. And I think researchers and teachers are more flexible, maybe have more free time than administrative staff. Usually, as an administrative staff, you have to work from Monday to Friday, and every day from 9 o'clock to 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon. And but as a teacher, you don't have to obey to this schedule. It only up to when you're teaching your lectures is begin. Usually, I think that just now, as I heard that you have someone has talked about another question about maybe about politicals. I think that as a university teachers, the atmosphere, research atmosphere is very free now. It's not. We after all, we are not live in imagine, and if you want to know what the research atmosphere is, I recommend that you choose a Chinese university, and you will feel the free research atmosphere, not only for natural science but also for social science. As my major is law, and my major is public law. That's about constitutional law and administrative law, and I can do my research freely as what I like.
Great. Actually, I'm going to follow up on the Twitter feed that I'm being sent. There's quite a lot of questions from the humanities folk, because naturally there's different funding possibilities. So could you say a little bit about the funding possibilities for the humanities? I know you're a law expert, and also whether there's space for early researchers in the humanities as compared to the sciences.
Okay. I agree with Le Yang that the fundings are divided into in two directions. One is governmental funds, and the other is industrial funds. And to the governmental funds, they are also divided into two. One is the central government funds, and the other is the local government funds. I think that is quite easy. Maybe you may not know how diversity is the fundings are. When you enter a university, when it's time to apply for a fund, the administrative officers will in advance to notice that when it's time to apply for the funds. And for another question, when you really have got a fund, the accounting system is also very easy, and I recommend that you go through a process, and you will know all the things in China.
Great, thank you. So and maybe I'll go to Li Yang again. So we had some questions prepared, but the Twitter has been wonderful. So let me ask about work-life balance. You mentioned that as administrators have, need to sit in the office, but it's a bit freer for staff. But could you, so what kind of is there for, say, an associate lecturer or lecturer? And also, what kind of career progression is the system in China? Is it like the British system, or is it the American tenure track system? So it's just something, so work and life and work.
Okay. Well, say the tenure system is more close to the US one. So we don't have lecture. We only have assistant professor, but we call that lecture before. But it's equivalent to assistant professors. And we have associate professor. Then we have full professor. We also have, in some schools, we also have distinguished university professor. So that's basically the 4 level you moved up. It depends on the university. So the tenure evaluation normally takes 4 to 6 years, but in US, so it's normally 6 years only, right? But for example, in my school, we only give you 1 chance in 4 years. If you are not, not good enough, you might have to leave for another job. So that's the career path. Well, regarding the working load, well, after you have received the tenure, is much more like the Western countries. You don't have to worry about you will lose a job, so you can enjoy life and academia much more. But before that, it's really, the workload is really intensive, I have to say. So the tenure evaluation normally look at your publication record, your teaching evaluation, and the amount of funding you have obtained, external funding only. So they have a bottom line for each criteria. So the success also depends on how many persons are applying for tenure that particular year. So if you are really, really good, but your competitors are also really good, so that year you may have some troubles. In China, the administrative workload is relatively low. It's as for my experience, I am the lab director. I have 2 assistant professors working with me, but only still, so it's more like a Western style. They are allowed to work on what the research interests are. So I don't, give much restriction, but we do have regular, interactions like group meetings, a weekly group meeting, a month review. But well, that's pretty much. And if we have funding opportunities, such as I'm also looking for chances we can jointly file a joint proposal to some industry, for example. So, but before they get tenured, I don't think I really have much administrative duties to carry on. But I'm not sure what about the more senior faculties. If they try to manage like more than 10 members, that could be a different story.
Okay, great. So I'm getting some questions on the live chat about the internet. So I guess this makes sense from academics. Can I open up to the panel your thoughts on the Chinese firewall and social media and stuff like that? What kind of impact, if any, or what's your experience with that? And what's your experience maybe with the change or the differences? So whoever wants to answer.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, and I mean, for academy, you don't need to worry about that. I mean, they got all the access to different publication groups. I mean, you can visit the journal's website. So for academy, it's quite similar from here. But for the for, as you said, for the Facebook and some other website, I'm not sure, but I think because nowadays more and more foreigners is going to work in China, and I heard from some of my friends that they told me that they can use VPN in China, so they can visit those websites maybe, yeah. And if necessary, I think that they are allowed to use VPN, but I'm not quite sure about that, yeah. But for academy, it doesn't matter. It's quite similar. You can do everything you want for academic. Yeah.
Is that also your experience in China? I see you nodding along.
Yeah. Okay. Also to the social communication tools. I think maybe in China you could at present you could not use Facebook or Twitter, but in China, especially for foreigners, when you decide to enter in China, you have to do as locals. Yes, at present we don't have you couldn't use Facebook, you couldn't use Twitter, but we have the same communication tools. You can use WeChat, yeah, and you can use the QQ and other communication tools. Yes, when you as just as said, when you decide to enter China, you can do as what Chinese people do. Then you can have a experience of I think a fantastic experience in China. Okay.
Great, thank you. So I'm getting some questions from about finding what the requirements to find a job, and likely a good job in China. For instance, if you want to talk about the talent program or Talent 1000, open that up. But also if you're just looking for any job, what are the requirements? Is it true, for instance, that the main dependency, the main requirement is the publication record, SCI journals and so on, or do they look at other things? Maybe I'll ask it to Huan, who's telling me he's looking at the moment.
Yeah, yes, the same experience for me too, because I'm looking for a job in university now. So it depends if you got very high quality publications. But I want to make everybody know that in China nowadays, the high quality publication just means Science, Nature, and Cell. If you got that kind of paper, you can got a associate professor or even full professor in China already. But everybody knows it's very top levels, so it's not that easy to get one. And so if you don't get that kind of high quality papers, then you can find some lower positions. For example, research assistant professor or research associate professor. It will be much lower levels, but the salary is not that bad. It's good as well. For example, my own opinions, my own experience. I got an offer from Southern University of Science and Technology. It's a new university in Shenzhen, and they can give me research assistant professor, and even though and I will start to work in a big group, then I can use the funding from we can say from the boss of the group, so I don't need to worry about too much of the starting fundings. But if you got very nice publication, then the university will give you the starting fundings for you to set up the lab. So yes, it depends on the publication. In natural science, yeah, you need to. But if you don't get too much publication, you can still find very easy to find a postdoc position in China. Yeah, and then if you can publish some excellent papers, then you can promote to associate professor or assistant professor after you finish your postdoc.
Great.
Yeah.
So, does anyone know something about the various talent programs, and how can the viewer find out about them? So, for instance, when I look myself, they're largely in Chinese. Where might one go to find out what exact requirements different universities have? Because as far as I know, the different universities, depending on quality and so on, have different offers, have different criteria. And where does the the audience member, average audience member, go to look for this information? Liang or Xinchang?
Okay. Honestly, I helped two foreign faculties apply for those talent programs in the past 2 years. Well, to be honest with all the audience, so we don't have a clear requirement listed in any website. So that's that's maybe one of the major difficulties for those foreigners to evaluate themselves. Because we don't make them public. If for anyone who are really interested to apply for those programs, so what I can suggest to them is that, so if they first have to look for a host university, then he or she may need to contact some person there and talk to them and say what are their expectations. So that is a long process. It's kind of, so you should start with this kind of process, then making sure you're, so it's like a kind of blind date, honestly.
Okay.
It's like blind date.
So it's deliberately not that clear, right? Because
yeah,
these are prestigious positions. So the idea is
right.
Find a job first, and then if there's some discussion and analysis of whether or not you might qualify. Great.
Yeah.
But okay, that helps a lot.
And I also suggest, if you are very good enough to apply for, as you said, talent projects, 1,000 young talent projects, this kind of project in China, then I suggest you contact the head of department directly, because they will, you can always find their email address on the website. And because I come from Sanya University, we got quite a lot, 1,000 young talents in our department, and normally they will contact the head of our department directory. Yeah, that will be another way to do so.
Good. So I think we should move on to a couple of the actual application process, because it's, I don't know yet. So maybe we can ask about, we've talked a little bit about criteria, right? So publications or experience and different levels, but what about like adapting the CVs or covering letters? Is there a particular standard that's appropriate? What kind of interviews take place and how they take place, and some of the practicalities? And also later on, functionally, how do you actually start working? Because moving is a big thing. And so we will talk about that as well. So maybe to Xinchang first about the actual application process. So CVs, covering letters, interviews, so on.
Okay. I have to say that someone said Chinese universities are divided into two direct categories. The first one is Peking universities and Tsinghua universities. The other universities are ranked the second category. I think that when you apply for, make a preparation for an interview, usually you have to choose the area, which city you want to go, and then you have to find in the website which are the top 100 or maybe 50 universities, famous universities in China. Then you can log in their website. You will find their personnel department, and there will always be a document tell you how to apply for the tenure. And as to the specific process, I think that usually you will make enough preparation for yourself. I think I say that you have to make splendid CV of yourself, and in the CV you will write your publications, your practice experience, your funds, or and other things to prove your academic skill, and you will send the CV to the personnel department. Usually, every school or every university, there will be a personnel department to receive your CVs. And after that, you have to wait for the administrative officer to to tell you when you have to have an interview. At that time, as for teachers, when the exact day comes, you have maybe you have to be to give a lecture about 20 or 30 minutes on your major or anyone you like, and then also there will be a large audience, and they are also experienced scholars at that school. After your lecture, they will ask you something about the researchers. I also think that when you apply for tenure in university, the university where you graduate is very important.
Okay.
Universities where you graduate and the publications, I think they rank the same, but publication I think is the most important. Okay.
Okay. So here's an interesting question. So there are quite a few universities here in the UK and that now have joint partnerships with universities in China. So one thing that some people might look into is to work for the British university, but an affiliate in China. How does that compare to applying directly to a Chinese university? I'm not sure you have experience on this, but maybe if you can say something.
Oh, yeah. So nowadays, lots of Western universities have established the branches in China in different cities. According to my knowledge, so I have been working for one of them just for half a year. So normally, if you want to work for those joint institutions, so they may require you to work in China for like 4 to 6 months every year, and other time your work may be based in UK. And I'm not sure, maybe different universities have different policies. So some joint school institutions use the UK tenure system, and someone use the Chinese tenure system. So that depends on what school you are really work for. And also some schools says, okay, your performance may be evaluated based your work in China or in UK. So that also depends. And for those schools, the good thing is that you can apply for fundings in both countries. So that's one of the particularly attractive points. One of the difficult things that if you have a family, that could be a serious issue. Some guys I know, they have the families in UK, so they have to tolerate, the family. So they have to look for family reunion every year. So that's maybe a big problem. 4 to 6 months is not short time.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes in these universities are contract based. So you can sign like 3 years contract or 5 years contract with these joint institutions. I know someone who's working for that. So, but he's single, so that's a different story. So think about it. If you like, culture diversity, that could be a good choice for you, and also have lots of funding opportunities. But if you have a family looking for more stable, positions, that may not be an ideal choice.
Hmm.
So that's what I have.
Great. I have a question from the audience about whether there's an advantage of an overseas Chinese doing a PhD overseas and then returning to China versus Chinese students who have done a PhD in China, and the different experiences and competitive nature, and whether there's an advantage or not. So maybe Huai, you want to say something about that?
I think I'm the best candidate to answer this question because I just graduated, right? So for most of the case nowadays, quite a lot of local PhD students in China, they got very, very good publications compared with foreign, as you say, overseas Chinese PhD students. But don't worry about that because quite a lot of positions nowadays they ask for foreign PhD degrees. but not the local PhD degrees. And even even though some PhD students in China, they got nice publications, they also need to study abroad. For example, me, yeah. So even though you didn't, I mean, even some of the PhD students didn't got very nice publication overseas, but it's if you can start to work such as a research fellow in some big groups, I think then you got some publications, then I think you can promote to better positions slowly, one by one. I mean, it's not, I mean, if you got a foreign PhD degree, you can find some cities. I mean, if you just worry about salary, that is not the problem. And if you want to find a postdoc position, that's not the problem as well. I mean, even though you didn't got very nice publication, but that's one point you need to admit, that if you don't got enough publication, you cannot apply for too high positions.
Oh, I think we've temporarily lost Huai. We've got but on that subject, maybe I can ask Xinqiang. Let's go straight to the nitty gritty. So what is the money? What is the money like? How does it compare to US or UK institutions? Not for the group, but for just for the person salary. So maybe I can put that to Xinqiang.
I think when you choose to work in China or abroad, happiness is is most important. Yeah, maybe yes. We can earn less money by US dollars or by Great Britain pounds, but we should see what's the living land in the university, the cities. For example, my university located in the capital of Henan province, and the average living expense maybe about 3,000 yuan to 5,000 yuan in Zhengzhou city, and usually the university teachers their salaries will about 10,000 yuan a month, and the living land is just 3,000 yuan. So I think you will live a higher, you will have a higher living standard in China, and also and another reason is that many things, including many services in China, is much cheaper than that of the Western countries. And so that if you pay $1 in US or in UK, you may can just buy a cigarette, for example. But in China, it's enough for you to have a good meal. Yeah.
So we have a question about from the audience about whether it's possible for foreigners to apply on some kind of joint program with a local Chinese research organization, not necessarily universities. So I know, like on jobs.ac.uk, there are also other institutions that are possible. So maybe like with corporations or with science groups. So maybe Liang, you can tell us a little bit about that.
So the answer is yes. So we have fundings for those type of international collaborations. So one part is for industry, and some Chinese cities have so-called high-tech industrial parks, so they can host this type of collaborations. For academic international research collaboration, so the NSFC also has some funding for that. The problem is that you have to look for the Chinese partners first. So because they have to lead the applications, so that could be a problem. So you cannot simply find someone on ResearchGate. That's not possible. One of the good way out is that, okay, if the foreign faculties have visitors from China, talk to them. If they have a common interest, they can plan for it. So this kind of collaborations, I would say, is quite personal. It's personalized. It's not like we cannot simply do in Western countries, like we post something on Twitter or Facebook and find collaborators, but then we have to be, this has to be done in a much more principled way.
So what if we step back a little bit, instead of looking at specific jobs or even research or funding collaborations? What about just research collaborations? I'm sure there's some people in the audience who say, who are interested in working with Chinese researchers, right? Because there's a large talent pool. But may or may not come into contact daily. What would you recommend for those people? Maybe as the first to build up some networks in order to maybe in future consider.
Yeah, well, that's the key difference between the Eastern and the Western culture. The Chinese people, not every one of them, but many of them are not fully adapted to the so-called email culture. So we don't quite answer emails regularly, so that could be the problem. So I heard some complaints about the Western, researchers says, okay, I'm trying to email someone in China asking for codes or for like sample materials, but they won't reply in like 5 or 6 months. So that's like a black hole.
Yeah.
That's quite normal in China because we rely more on instant messengers, WeChat or WhatsApp, but we are not quite adapt to the emails. And for me, it's kind of different. But I have been living in Western country for more than 80 years, so that's a different story. So, but it's the one good way to build collaboration with Chinese people is to attend the conferences, international conferences, talk to them. So face-to-face communication would easily, I would say, easily build confidence and faith on both sides. And if they can exchange emails or even telephones, so that could be even better. I would say that's a much more efficient way to establish or start networking.
So maybe on that subject, it's a good time. What are some of the research or cultural differences that will impact, say, audience members who aren't, ethnically Chinese, or because I'm sure there are many out there. What are some things to bear in mind for those who are thinking of moving, and how can that impact actual practicalities? Do universities, for instance, provide services to help acclimatize new staff, or training programs, or general other like social networks? Maybe Huai Huang, what do you think?
I see the professors words quite similar compared with UK here. Normally, in my field, my previous supervisor, he just need to focus on his classes and his research. And for the others, yeah, if you want to get promotion in China, maybe you need to attend some social meetings, something like that. But normally, you just need to focus on your research. If you do research in China, it's the same because everybody just care about papers you publish. So
okay, yeah. So going back to so focus on your work. Great. So going back to that. Actually, Liang, earlier on, I think he said his statement about the short part was leadership, being able to organize your own research groups and labs in China, having much more early leadership of groups. So maybe Chang, you can tell us a little bit about that. How would that work? So when would a, say, new researcher or early career staff expect to be able to start leading their own research?
Is a little different from that of natural science.
Oh, okay. So you go for telling me about humanities first, and then Liang will tell us a bit more about the natural sciences.
Okay. And usually, after for new staff, usually some universities there will be a research team, and when you be a new staff, you have to join in one or another research team. But it's up to you. If you want to be a simple or a happy, just a simple and happy teacher in universities, you can be do your own initiative to do your own research. You wouldn't join any other research teams. And as a social science researcher, I think funds and publications are more important than other things. And as for me, I think that when a social science PhD students join a university as a new staff, they usually will be about 2 years for the advance of tenure. And when you are a new staff, you got a PhD degree. You will also be the assistant professor, and there will be 2 years for you to advance to be an associate professor. If you are distinguished enough, you can finish it in 2 years or 3 years. And after you are an associate professor, I think you are more freely than as you are more free, you have more time to do your own research. At that time, maybe you can be a leadership. You can found your own research team. But before that, I think that the most important things are two. One is that you teach well to get the appraise from the students or other experienced teachers. The other thing is that you publicate as more publications as you can and get as more funds as you can. I think that you will advanced very quickly, and then at that time you can see, yes, I am not just a new staff now. I can do my own research now. I can choose which direction I like, and I will do it well. That's just a brief introduction of social science. Okay.
Okay, great. Yeah. So we'll get to the same question for Liang in just a minute. But there's a great question from the audience asking about the situation for female academics in China. So I noticed that we are all men, I think. So what is the general position for female academics? Are there salary differences, and what about maternity leave provision in Chinese universities? So Huayi has volunteered to tell us about this.
Yeah, because my girlfriend just got a position in Shenzhen as an academy in Shenzhen University. Yeah, Shenzhen yes, thank you. They are the same. I mean, the salary is the same. Just depend on your position in the university. So there won't be any difference. And if you got they will allow you to have maybe half a year holidays for. I mean, to give birth to the baby. Yeah,
it's not a holiday.
sorry. Yeah. I mean, everything it should be the same, and they won't. But it's very. I mean, it's really a little bit harder compared with male academy to find a job there, but still got chances. Yeah.
So, Liang, do you have anything to add to that, or you could tell us more about leadership roles in the sciences?
Well, okay. So for like fresh graduates, if you're just received your PhD, establish your own, like you start your academic career. So basically, in most cases, you will be affiliated with bigger groups. So in China, because the university is much bigger, it's really much bigger. So it has much more faculties than Western countries.
Let me interrupt. That's a great question. A great thing actually to raise. Just how big is the average, top 50 university in China? Like, how many students? What are class sizes? So these practical things that in the day-to-day interaction.
So for engineering, for my school, for example, that's pretty much average. So the class size is around 40 students for one class.
Okay.
But normally you have to teach, like you have to face 2 or 3 classes at the same time. So it's 80 to 120. So that's on the average.
How many hours a week?
Faculties, like, in my department, we have 260. In electrical engineering faculties, that's a lot. Yeah,
faculty.
Yeah,
Wow.
right. That's a lot. So we have at least 5 different directions. We have groups already. So when you start in a top universities such as the Tsinghua or Peking universities, you have to getting started by being affiliated with established group. So that's pretty normal condition. After you get received, but you normally have a lot of freedom to work on whatever you want. So after you receive the tenure, it depends on your interests and some other factors, but not quite important. So you may be able to start your own laboratory as a PI. So that's one option. And the department normally allow 2 or 3 or 5 faculties to establish their own new labs if their funding conditions is sufficient. So that's for leadership. Leadership, I don't think leader comes out of nowhere. So basically, either you have a strong stronghold in a particular area, you have a lot of publications, and you have fundings that you have projects that may not be accomplished by a single person. You may trying to attract some new coming faculties to your group, but that also depends. Like me, I'm doing on tracking and navigation, several different things. But for me, it took me around 5 years to find 2 collaborators. So
Okay.
that's not bad, but it's somewhat slow. So
Great.
yeah.
So we're coming up to the end of our time, so I don't want to rush anything. Firstly, I'd really like to thank all the panelist members, but your job's not done just yet. I'd like to thank jobs.ac.uk, the hosts, Martin Ward, for finding us and asking us to help. We're all volunteering. This is just to, well, I mean, I'm doing this just to find out more stuff. It's been really helpful for me. I do want to point the audience members to the careers advice section at jobs.ac.uk, where there's lots more information on this. As we said, this whole video, maybe with minor edits, will go up on YouTube, and there'll be information there as well. But before that, so maybe to conclude, so I'll give you 1 minute each, okay? So if you tell me, I asked you at the beginning very quickly what was really good about working in China. So maybe you could give me the slightly longer version. So some takeaway that, from each of your perspectives. So we'll start again with Huai. 1 minute.
Okay. Don't worry about your publication and your experience. You will always got the chance to find a position. I mean, a kind of position in China. I mean, in my case, I mean the PhD students. Yeah, they always got postdoc positions and also some research positions. So, just if you decide to work in China, it's not that hard to find a position. Promotion is another thing, but if you work hard and work well, then you surely will get promotion. Yeah.
All right, great. Okay, so that's actually quite different to, say, the US, where there are many more PhD positions available than, say, postdoc positions. Right? It's tough to find
yeah, because in China the government and the city will pay for them, so the supervisors don't worry to pay the salary. Yeah.
It's different to in, say, the UK as well, where the next step can be tough after grad school. So how about Li Yang? What do you think? 1 minute.
Okay.
30
I have
seconds.
been living in two cultures for relatively long time, and as a Chinese, I would say welcome to China. Say, well, if you really want an academic career in China, you have to be strong mentally, because you have to adapt to the cultural differences. But we do offer a very pleasant an environment of friendly environment with plenty of opportunities. I hope your journey, your academic journey in China will be challenging and rewarding, and you may be able to achieve much more than you could imagine in the in China. That's an amazing country.
Great. So wonderful. So it's opportunity and risk, right? So 1 minute left. So maybe Sinchan, you can finish for. And again, thank you everyone. And over to you, Sinchan.
We live in a global village. Yeah. Before you come to China, play hard and work hard, get as more publications as you can. And when you come to China, you have to remember that the domestic PhD students in China and that of the abroad PhD students are equal. If you want to do well in China, you have to be strong enough, and welcome to China if you want to have a different experience that's different from the Western country. Okay.
Great, wonderful. So thank you again, everyone, and again, so for the audience, look up jobs.ac.uk where there are lots of Chinese jobs available at the moment, and that's thank you from me as well here in Wales. Cheers.